35. So, Bree, you kind of turned me on to this Facebook post that came out over the weekend.
You turned me on to it. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, I just sent it to you because someone sent it to me, and I was like, I don't even want to open this. I don't know what it is. But there's a woman here who is in quarantine, a government of Guam quarantine facility.
Mm-hmm. And she seems really frustrated with the number one, the fact that she's in quarantine, and then number two, just the information you're provided when you arrive to Guam, and phone numbers and things like that, and she's gotten nowhere.
And we actually have a clip. We're going to play this first clip here is where the woman is reading off. I'm going to make sure we're queued up here with our I want to give our digital team a big hand. Thank you guys. Jason Solis. A little bit overkill to have him behind there pressing buttons, but thank you. And Joe Sir. So we're going to play this clip from Kirsten is a woman's name, and she's in the government of Guam quarantine facility reading off the paper that you get when you get quarantined.
So they gave us this letter with numbers to call, and it literally says, please call the medical triage phone hotline center at these numbers. And it said to call if to request or need assistance in complying. Okay, hold on. This is the first number. Okay, it's right there. And we're calling it, and it's being all wonky, and it's telling me that the phone number is not real. The government of Guam gave us a bunch of fake numbers. We called all of them, and literally they're not really working. They'll ring for like 10 minutes. Hopefully they answer.
The number you dialed is incorrect. Please check the number and try again later.
Exactly the right number. And it hung up on me. Okay, next. We're going to do the next one. 6760. Oh, sorry. 4800 6760. This one just rang for like 10 minutes. It also says at the end that if this request may result in emergency detention order if we do not comply. So they give us an emergency line to call if we have problems, threaten to detain us, and then the numbers that they send us aren't even real. Guam, where's your money going to? All these millions of dollars, where is it going to? Because it's not in this blood-soaked room. It's not in this lines that are fake numbers that the government gave us. This is the official government of Guam seal. This is the Public Health Social Services official seal, and the numbers are fake. Okay, I feel like it's about time that we just switch on to the next, because it's been ringing for well over a minute now, and that's just not how it goes. Okay, 671 480 6763. This is the third number on the list of numbers they gave us. It's a really bad time for the nail salons to be closed. It's okay, me too. And it's like being weird. It's not ringing automatically. Like, it's like these numbers aren't even actually real. Like, they set up some fake shit. Nothing. How are you going to have a medical triage phone hotline center with 4 fake numbers? Hello? God damn it, we're please, somebody help us. Ah! Okay, Well, I'm going to go with, this one's not going to answer either, but we can let it ring for another minute. Just to prove our point. But I've called enough bitches. Yeah, we did. And I blew it out for a little while. I relit that because it started smelling like mold in here. Well,
not even a voicemail
you
system.
You heard it here first. There's not a voicemail system. The numbers are fake. This is the last one. 671-480-673.
All right, so again, that's a clip that was posted on Facebook over the weekend from Kirsten, who is currently in the government of Guam hotel quarantine. You know,
one of them, right?
One of them, yeah. It reminds me of that time. It seemed to
remember that time.
Do you remember that time in the press conference where I had asked the governor because she kept telling people go apply for food stamps, hang in there, go apply for the local assistance is the federally funded food stamps. And so they were giving out these numbers, and when we tried calling the numbers, it was like fast, busy, disconnected, you know, we didn't get an answer. So when we brought it up in the press conference and I had asked the governor tore my head off. And she was like, "Oh, I just called those numbers and they're working." And then I remember I was like, "Oh, maybe I need to use your phone." And then we went and called the numbers because I kind of know how to dial a telephone number. You know, I know how to dial telephone numbers so good. I used to dial them like this. I've been dialing phones for a minute, okay, guys?
And we double, triple checked those numbers.
Of course we did, because we did not want to be...
he checked. Yeah. Kept going back and forth. Are you sure?
I was like, Bree, can you be sure? Because when I go on this and I asked, I don't want to be, like, wrong. And so we all took turns dialing them, and that's why we asked. And, like, anyway, I just was a little bothered. Like, you think I would really go and ask you this if, like, we didn't check to be sure? I'm not trying to set you up. Just trying to help the people because they keep calling, and they were the ones who were complaining. So, yeah, we have a little bit of a problem with the phones answering or...
Working,
or, you know, I don't know.
And then Josh, Lieutenant Governor, came on like a week or so later and admitted...
Right.
You know, oh, yeah, the problem's been fixed.
Correct, yeah. And so that was interesting. So we were right, in other words. But it's not about being right. It's about getting things done. And so that being said, we want to actually bring Kirsten up onto the show this morning. But I got to tell you, Kirsten, our digital editor, Joe Sir, had a field day bleeping out all your colorful language. I was like, is she from the Roosevelt? Because it's got a sailor.
Yeah, I'm kind of...
I got it, yeah.
That, that was... we were very upset. We were having some issues. We actually had been in the hotel room for a couple hours at that point, and we had been put in a room that was very dirty. We thought it was blood on the walls, but the staff told us, and it was like they were trying to make us feel better about the situation, but they told us that it was just someone spit pine nuts or beetle nuts or something on the walls. And that didn't really make me feel any better about being in a room with spit on the walls. There was a lot of problems in the room that just are ridiculous, that they would put anyone in there in any situation, much less a situation where they have no choice but to be there. And we were actually calling because when we called the staff of the hotel to ask them if they could switch us to a clean room with a working air conditioner, they said that they had no power to move us, that they had to have specific permissions by the public health people, and that the Army people would have to transfer us into a new room, which that sounds legitimate. That sounds very reasonable in these circumstances to us. So we started calling the numbers that we had been given prior by the public health people in the airport, and there was no one to be reached. We couldn't reach anyone. So we said, whatever, they guaranteed that someone would be there at 8 o'clock in the morning to talk to us and handle the situation. 8 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, I called the office and requested if there was a public health official or like one of the Army people that could talk to us or anything. And they were like, we'll see what we can do. Maybe 45 minutes later, I called back down, and they put me on the phone with a gentleman from the Army, and he was like, what's going on? And I was like, this is the conditions of the room, this, that, and the other. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I'll see what I can do. And I had to, eventually the problem instantly got resolved after I threatened to jump out the window. I was like, I'm not going to stay in this room. I will jump out the window. And conveniently, 15 minutes later, there was no policies to follow. They were like, okay, yep, we'll be there. Grab your suitcases. We're going to switch your room immediately. And I think it's ridiculous. It wasn't like, oh, hey, I want a bathtub in my room. I want a king bed. I want this.
Is it supposed to come with a jacuzzi?
Exactly. I'm like, can I get some champagne in this room? And they're just like being unreasonable, you know? And so, and then another problem that we were having is I have multiple sclerosis, and heat is not my friend. So I was like starting to have like some nausea and some problems because the room was getting so hot. Like everybody knows it's Guam, it's humid, it's hot, that's what it is, but you need an air conditioner to be comfortable. And so they switched us to a room, and it was clean. There was no more complaints. And then I went to take a shower. The shower head wasn't on. There was no shower head. It was just a pipe sticking out the wall.
Oh, that's so like the ranch, girl. You never showered at the ranch?
No, I can't say that I've ever taken a shower without a shower head. So I called, I requested a shower head. That was the only request I made. I called, I said, hey, yeah, there's no shower head, kind of question mark.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
kind of weird. And she was like, I'll see what I can do, and just hung up the phone on me. Like
wow.
30 minutes later, a maintenance guy came into our room. He came in, the maintenance guy. This man walked into our room with no warning, no anything. They didn't call us and say a maintenance man is coming. Me and my friend when he came in, me and my friend went to the opposite side of the room. You know, like I've been respecting the CDC guidelines since March. As soon as they started telling people to do certain things to keep themselves healthy and safe, I've been respecting it. So when this man that I do not know walked into the room with no warning, no nothing, came in to fix the shower, which I am thankful that they did it in a timely manner, but he came in, we didn't have time to put our masks on, and we're pushed into the corner of the room, standing as physically far as possible away from him as we could. And he's telling us verbatim that we're being ungrateful and difficult. And he's like, we don't have enough staff to keep the rooms to your standards. And I was like, all we ask is to not have blood on the walls. And that's when he let us know that it wasn't blood. He was like, someone just spit beetle nuts on the walls. And I was like, that's no better. That's literally not any better, especially considering that this hotel, to get the money that they're getting from the emergency fund, have to keep this hotel up to certain health standards to make sure that people aren't getting sick. That's the literal whole point of this whole thing. So after the guy was very rude and telling us that we were being difficult and ungrateful, he fixed the shower head, he left. No more problems, none. We didn't call anyone, we didn't ask for anything special, nothing. At some point, I was having problems swallowing. It's just like a thing that happens with multiple sclerosis. I was told to stop taking my medication until I knew that I wasn't going to be sick or get sick, because it's an immune suppressant drug. And so I was having symptoms, which is no one's fault. It just happened. But I called and I requested that instead of the meals they were providing, that they maybe like send me protein shakes or something. And they were like, the best we can do is give you salmon and mashed potatoes. And I was like, no, I need like literally something around the consistency of like milk or water, like a protein shake, something that I can easily swallow. And they were like, you're being difficult, and hung up and had no interest in anything. They were like, we're going to send you salmon and mashed potatoes, and that's soft enough. They weren't willing to work on it or anything. A public health official came to the room and was telling us, he showed us this document that said that these are the things that we needed to produce to be able to home quarantine. And we were telling him that we produced it. We have the emails that we sent at 6 o'clock in the morning as soon as we had all of it, because it was a battle that we had to deal with. Like, we were trying to follow every guideline they gave us. It was literally they'd be like, okay, we need negative test results. We produced the negative test results. They were like, okay, no, we need this. We produced it. They'd be like, no, now we need this. We produced that. They were like, oh, well, how do we know that you were really these people?
Wait, so you said you had negative test results too?
Yes, we have negative test results from a CDC-approved facility. We got tested at the public health office in San Diego before leaving. We landed within the 72-hour mark. We were quarantined within the 72-hour mark. We met every single legal request that we were given before leaving San Diego and coming here. We have been trying to meet every guideline, and it's just ridiculous that we were the only ones following the guidelines. None of these public health officials at any point were following anything. They weren't using Germ-X. They were digging through our stuff at the airport without changing gloves or using Germ-X. So honestly, if we would have gotten sick, it would have happened in that airport when they had a group of 40 people standing basically within, hands distance of each other. And then we had several people tell us to get into the line and get into the group when me and my friend were standing more towards baggage claim, waiting for more people to leave the area before we walked in to a group of people that we don't know have been following guidelines or anything. So it was just like a whole mess, nothing enough, nothing. Every single time they asked us to pursue something, it was like this. And then they told us that they needed to make sure we were the people on these test results. Understandable. None of the requests they were asking for about these documentations seemed insane to me or anything. They were very reasonable. They wanted documentation. They wanted proof of the date that we got tested. They wanted proof that we were the people in the test results. And then we were like, okay, well, y'all took copies of our IDs at the airport. This is public. Every single person, we watched people take pictures of their identification cards and passports. And we told them, we were like, well, you already took pictures of our identification cards, but we will literally hand them to you right now. And they were like, oh, well, but, yeah, no, that's not going to work because we need something that has your name and your picture and your date of birth and your social security number. And I was like, there is literally no way to produce this. Like, what you're asking for is not possible. And after we were like, we gave you this, we have the evidence, we have the emails, he was like, well, maybe we'd be willing to work with you if you wouldn't have made those posts about public health putting you in the power.
Public health, what? What'd you say?
The public health official
The phone?
told me, my friend, I started videotaping as soon as he said this, and I have the whole video. It's a 7-minute video of me. I did get I was crying, I was yelling, I was raising my voice, because after you have someone tell you that, like, it doesn't matter that you did everything we requested, that was basically just punishing you because you made a post outing that the public health was allowing people to be put into dirty rooms. I posted the pictures of the gross room, and I said, there was a couple posts made by a couple different people with my picture saying, like, this is disgusting, like, this shouldn't be happening in a place that's run by public health right now.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, well, we're kind of angry at you that you, like, name dropped the government and everything. And he was like, you're disrespecting our governor. And I said, like, I'm not going to say it because y'all are going to bleep it out, but, a word and then governor, F the governor, if this is what she thinks is acceptable. And he just was like, you can't disrespect our governor. Like, you can't post these videos. You can't do this. And then he was just like, he was really unhappy. He was just like angry at us on a personal level. Like, we produced all these documents, and he was like, no, this is, and we were reading it to him. The paper that he gave us highlighted, we were reading to him. We were like, nowhere on this does it say that our social security number, our name, everything has to be on one document. And he points out that it says in the document that everything is up to the DPHSS official to release you. And he was like, and maybe we'd be willing to work with you if you wouldn't have posted about it on the internet. And I was like, you literally can't say that. You can't, like, you're the person in the position of power to set us free. And he was like, you're perfectly free to leave. And I was like, perfectly free to leave and be detained. And he was like, yes, but it's your choice. And after that, which also, y'all said I was still in the quarantine. I am no longer quarantined because I ended up having a small seizure while I was standing in the bathroom, and I fell and I hit my head. I was unconscious for about 3 minutes. In which my friend, who's my caregiver, to like make sure that my neurological issues are like kept in check, because sometimes when I'm having problems, I'm not really aware of it. It's just like how it goes. And she called the nurse. She said that the nurse took like 10-15 minutes to get up there, despite her telling her that I was unconscious and having like seizure-like movements. The nurse came up and was at the door with the captain of the army guy who was there. And my friend was like, "Can you come help her? Can you come in? Can you come look at her?" And she was like, "No, she can walk to the door." And my friend was like, "She's literally unconscious. Like, she won't wake up." The nurse would not come into the room and check on me. She was like, "Y'all are just being difficult." She was giving us problems. She wouldn't even come into the room. And what's crazy is that she was telling us that no one, absolutely no one, is allowed to go into the room. But the maintenance worker the day before had literally come into the room unannounced with no time put on her mask or anything. And so the lady just wouldn't come in. And she told us that she had said to us, like, she was like, on the phone when I got news that there was someone in here with multiple sclerosis, I called and told you. And I was like, "You did not call me and tell me anything. What you called and told me, if you called and told me that I shouldn't be taking my medication," which I already know because I have a neurologist. And I told her, I was like, "Yes, I already know this." Like, my neurologist went over everything, and she hung up the phone. Like, I had been hung up on several points and I told her that I was like needing a special diet, and she was like, "Well, they tried to work with you and you're being difficult." And I was like, "I can't eat. I need like liquid, like actual liquid, not salmon, not mashed potatoes, actual liquid." And no one was even trying to help me. No one was giving me any options. I offered to pay for my food. I offered to pay to like take a rapid test or something. And then after I was unconscious for 3 minutes, my friend called 911. The paramedics showed up. They let the paramedics in. The paramedics had to like physically put me into the chair because I couldn't stand. I couldn't get up. They took me to the emergency room. They had told me that I had to go to GHI. They told the paramedics in front of us that we did not have test results, that we were not showing them that we were negative. They lied to them in front of us. And like as soon as they said it, my friend pulled up the LHI website in front of the people, in front of the paramedics, showed them our negative test results. The paramedics were like, "Yeah, well, this is a negative test result." And they're like, "Oh, this isn't like an approved facility, so this test like might not even be legitimate." And then my friend was like, this was done at the public health office in San Diego by government funded testing, by nurses hired by the public health, like following every single thing. And they ended up taking me to the Naval Hospital, in which they started treating me. It was a good maybe hour and 30 minutes before I was like coherent enough to even tell them my name. They were telling me after the fact, when I was more coherent, that I didn't even know where I was, that I thought I was still in San Diego, that I thought I was at Balboa Hospital. They had like triage me for like stroke because they didn't know what was happening, because I wasn't like coherent enough to like explain anything. And just unfortunately, this is something that I deal with. It's no one's fault really that this happened. I just happened to be standing when I had a little seizure activity and I fell. Like, that's no one's fault. It's just something I deal with. Mm-hmm. But I went to the hospital and they checked me out and they gave me everything I needed, and they made sure I was fine. And I was like, "Yeah, guys, I'm fine. Like, this happens sometimes. Like, this is normal. This is my baseline. It's just that I fell and hit my head." And then they told the nurse that had called and checked on me that when I left, I would need to be quarantined with someone that could be with me, because I was a fall risk, because I have like a neurological problem that I'm not always at the capacity to like be aware of. And they told them verbatim that I needed to be quarantined with someone, and they said that I couldn't be quarantined with anyone that was like out and about in the world, that like I had to be 100% locked with no human contact. And they were like, "She's a fall risk. Like, she literally fell and knocked herself unconscious. She needs someone." And after being told this, they were like finally willing, the person that I was quarantining with in the hotel, they were finally willing to like give her a test today. They said that they're going to give her a test today at 11, a rapid test, even though we already produced our test results and everything. And then she will release her, and then we can home quarantine at my apartment together. But it's been a whole process.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely awful. They've not taken respect for my health condition. They have not followed any guidelines or anything. It's like the only time they want to bring up the rules is when they're changing them and when they're trying to like prove a point. But the public health official was like, we moved you out of the room. Like we did this. We're trying to work with you on your diet. And I was like, I'm sorry. I do not like to be difficult or cause problems or anything, but I'm not asking for insane requests. I'm literally trying to just like, not, it might be a little dramatic, but like not fall and die. Like I need nutrition. I need, someone to be there to make sure that I'm not like having problems, and they're just not following it. And it's just like insane to me that they were literally telling us you're being difficult, and they're like, you're getting free food and a free hotel stay, this, that, and the other. And I was like, at every turn I have offered to pay for my own food. I've offered.
Wow, this is nothing new. I hate to say it, but we've heard the same story from a lot of people who have been in the quarantine, people who have met different criteria that public health says on that paper they should be released for, but they're just not getting released. So we've heard the frustration. You're not the first. I pray you'll be the last, but you probably won't be.
I mean, there was a guy that went completely insane at another facility. Whenever the people got there to talk to us, they were like, yeah, sorry, we had another situation. Comes to find out that a guy went completely insane to the point that he was trying to climb out of a balcony. He was breaking stuff. Like, I understand that we need to do everything we can to make sure that this sickness does not ravage this island. It's a small island. Everybody is like really close, like if this got unchecked, it would be awful. But they absolutely need to also be concerned about people's conditions while they're quarantined. There are other problems, and they do not take precedence to the pandemic that we're having. But it's not like one has to be without the other. They can give people reasonable conditions and give them what they literally need without risking the public health.
Kirsten, we're getting some comments here. So we played one of your videos, but there was another video that we saw where you kind of went off on some of the members of the guard. People had commented here that they felt that was kind of uncalled for. Now, hearing your side, obviously you're very frustrated, but what would you say to those people who think that you went a little hard on our guards people?
So the video, I rewatched it after the fact, and I was like, oh yeah, I was going a little ham. But like, if in the video, I'm saying things that it's taken out of context are a little rough, but I'm literally saying like, if they're gonna keep us in the room, we're gonna leave. What are they gonna do? And me and my friend, who are honestly small women, we're like, we can take them. They can't stop us. We're joking, and I said that if they kept us in a room like this, we should have a lawsuit. And I was like, I'm going to start a lawsuit, and I'm going to take their dogs in the lawsuit. It was statements that, like, might offend people, but, like, we're, like, laughing and, like, being a little manic about the situation. But it's not like I'm about to go downstairs and beat them. I was like, oh, yeah, we're going to, fight everybody if they make us stay in this room with blood on the walls. And people were mad about it.
Kirsten, where are you now?
I'm actually completely alone in my apartment.
Okay, so you are out, of course.
So you're in a self-isolation right now.
Did you disclose you had a pre-existing medical condition when you arrived after you showed your tests, your negative tests?
Yes, I did. I told them that I have multiple sclerosis. They asked, when they ask you stuff, they're like, do you have food allergies, this, that, and the other? And I told them that I had multiple sclerosis, and they didn't seem interested in that at all. And so I didn't even think about it at all. I was just like, they asked me if I had a pre-existing medical condition. I told them, and that was that. And then after the fact, the nurse called me and was like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't be taking your medication. And I was like, yes, I'm very aware. And that was the only thing that anyone told me in relation. No one said that I had, and not even with my test results, that I could have been tested in Guam a rapid test because I have a pre-existing condition. No one told me any of that. No one told me anything like that. When I asked if we could get rapid tested out of pocket, they said, we cannot test you. We're not licensed to test you. You just have to wait. And I was like, okay, because everything that they were saying individually sounded legitimate, especially considering that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I didn't do any medical training. So when a public health official says things to you, sometimes you just kind of listen, and if it sounds legitimate, it sounds legitimate. But after all of these legitimate sounding things started to like prove the individual statements illegitimate, it snowballed. I kind of went crazy. I lost my mind when they refused to give me the food I wanted or actually needed. I just started going a little.
So you're a returning Guam resident. When did you arrive back to Guam?
The night of the 23rd.
Okay. Wow. When you made those phone calls, what time was that? Was it early in the morning, or was it?
No, it was at night. It was right after we got there, after we were told that we would have to speak to a public official. So it's probably between the time of like 9 and 10 at night, and we were told to contact those numbers by the public health officials in the airport.
On that sheet of paper, the number you were, the paper that you were referencing for the phone numbers, did it say anything about whether they're open at this time or closed at this time? Those numbers?
No, I have the paper right in front of me. I read it a couple of times to make sure that I wasn't just kind of looking like a D-bag. It just says that it's the medical triage phone hotline center. And if you need assistance or help or information, to call these numbers. And then directly afterwards, it says failure to voluntarily comply with this request may result in an emergency detention order, which to me does not sound like it's voluntary.
Right, this is not voluntary, it's mandatory. There's been this effort for returning Guam residents, if they test negative, I believe it's the Physicians Advisory Group, they would like for people to home quarantine as opposed to being forced into these government quarantine facilities. But there's been no final decision by the governor on that. So it just really sounds like you have had a hellish time at this government quarantine facility. Was there anything that was positive at all?
How was your mashed potatoes?
I actually didn't get to eat them. By the time dinner arrived, I was already incapacitated in an ambulance. But actually, Captain Babalta of the behavioral health thingy-majigger in the Army, the entire time, he was very understanding. He was trying to keep us calm. He assured us that he was trying to do his best. He was very reasonable. He stayed in contact with us. After I told him I had multiple sclerosis and everything that was going on, he was like, I'm going to do everything I can to work with you guys. And he was the only person that was speaking to us like we were people. So he was probably the only positive thing out of that. He was the only person being professional. He was the only person that was really making us feel like anyone was concerned about our health and safety at all.
All right. So shout out to Captain Babalta, whoever you are out there. You are appreciated. In closing, I don't know, is there anything you want to...
No, I just wanted to thank you for giving us some insight into what some of the passengers that are being forced into quarantine are experiencing that are returning Guam residents. So, I hope things get better for you and your friend who's still in quarantine that's going to be tested today.
Right.
Yeah, I hope they actually do what they say, because according to them yesterday at around 9, they were supposed to start the process of letting us go, and by noon they had changed their attitude because apparently between those times the public official had seen my pictures of the hotel room condition.
Captain Tomba Babalta, this one, let's give... Good job, Captain. Do you feel bad at all about going off? There's just another comment here, Kirsten. Why would you take it out on the Army Guardsmen and women? They were just doing what they were ordered to do.
To be perfectly clear, and in the video, me and my friend are acting a little outrageous, but as soon as I opened the door to talk to the officials, my tone changed 100%. I was like, we were, you know, like, we were laughing. We were, like, being loud and raising our voices, but, like, laughing and, like, trying to, like, you know, like, vent, but, like, kind of in a humorous way. And we were just, like, you know, doing that. Like, it was, at that point, my video wasn't to do anything. It was literally just to, like, a live video to my friends and family and everything.
Right.
But they knocked on the door, and I was like, hold on, I'm putting my mask on. And as soon as I opened the door, I was like, hi. And I don't remember what she said, but I was like, okay, yes. And then I closed the door. I never yelled at any of the Army Guardsmen. As soon as I opened the door, my attitude changed 100%. I even had comments made on it. They were like, how are you going to act all hard? And then as soon as the door opens, you change your tone. And I was like, well, literally, because I don't want to make this freaking Army person that's literally doing their job feel unsafe or anything. Like, I was being a little outrageous on my Facebook page, but as soon as I actually interact, like in the video and everything, as soon as I interacted with this young lady in her uniform, I changed my tone 100%. I became respectful.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks,
thank you,
Kirsten, for, you know, sharing your story again.
Yeah, no problem. I hope that some good comes out of this, that they at least change the conditions and get people actual numbers that can give them helpful information and be there for them in their time of need, so no one has to climb out of balconies and have seizures and all of this insanity.
Mm-hmm. All right, take care.
You too. Have a lovely day.
You too.
You too, Kirsten. Wash your hands, okay?
You got it.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.
You know what? If it were me, I would be.
Oh my God.
You know how I am.
Yeah,
I would
I know how
be
you
raising all kinds of hell. Like, there's blood on my walls. This
No,
aircon's
that's
not working.
Ma'am, that's not blood. That's pugwa spit.
I don't care. I would
No. That's not blood, okay? We got the blue light thing. I wonder if they brought in the blue light thing. And it was like, no, it's not showing up.
Yeah.
Analyze it. They brought the public health in and they probably swabbed it and they're like, oh, it's betel nut juice. Oh.
Yeah. I would be one of those people. I would probably be a Kirsten. And I'm sorry, but she went on Facebook and she was emotional. She was upset.
I just wanted to...
I would be calling all the phone numbers too and nobody answering. Just set me off.
We did call all the phone
I just
numbers.
wanted to corroborate what Sabrina said, because for the last 22 odd years of my life, I have been on the receiving end of many of your tyrants, and justifiably because I started...
Tyrants? No. It's
No.
not tyrants.
No, your tirade.
Tirade, right.
Yeah.
But they're
hell hath no
justified.
fe-
Justified.
You know what they say? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and then there's this one. That's legit. I mean, when
This
and
is the
people,
woman.
people do have the right to get upset.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the woman they were talking about when they came up with that saying. Hell hath no fury. Yeah, it's frustrating, and of course, people.
And she's not the only one we have heard from.
Oh, man.
I mean, come on.
We heard from
the mold in the rooms, the no aircon.
Now you may disagree with her.
The shower. What did you say? There was no shower head.
Okay. Now a lot of people.
Leche.
A lot of people,
on.
understandably so, you know, I mean, you know, the way we do things like island culture, you know, we're respectful, we're brought up to, not speak outside our part, but some people in the comment stream do not agree with her tone or her tact, but you've got to respect the fact that she defended her position. Mm-hmm. And she was trying to do what was right for herself, and she said it's not just for her, she's also trying to make this so that others don't have to go through what she's gone through.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. People can go through the same thing, but the minute someone who comes from the outside says the same thing that someone who's from here will say, all of a
Outside,
sudden
she's a returning resident.
I know, but that's the problem that people had with it. It's like, oh, she was going off on the guardsmen. Well, I'm pretty sure she was frustrated, and we know that she's not the only one who's been going off.
Yeah, I mean,
on the
if I
quarantine.
was returning and my son was with me, oh man, I probably would have been arrested.
Yeah, and then you'd be doing a whole other kind of quarantine. 9:15. Let's keep it going on the phones here. There's something you might have heard about that's happening this weekend. I know a lot of people are talking about this COVID-19 pig derby.
Ah.
Yeah, and so let's bring the agriculture director